All right, R2 is real numbers and their properties. So we're starting at number 18. So these just say to evaluate each expression. So it's pretty much just evaluating exponents. So 18 is -3 raised to the 5th power. Does anyone know what that is off the top of their head? Yep. And it's going to be negative because it's out front here. So -243. So yeah, so I usually think like 3 to the 4th, and then I don't like know 3 to the 5th off the top of my head, but I usually just multiply it 81 by 3 again, and that's how I get there. Let's see. 22. Got in parentheses -2 raised to the 5th. What about that one? Yep, and it's going to also be negative because this is being raised to an odd power. So the negative's going to stay. To backtrack just slightly, I'm going to look at 20 because I realized I didn't go over one like that. If we had, I'm going to show this written 2 different ways. So -2 in parentheses raised to the 6th. Okay, or if I have -2 raised to the 6th like that. So, obviously I'm just multiplying 32 by 2 again to get 64. But in this case, when the parentheses is there and the negative's inside of it, it's raised to an even power, the negative is going away. Okay, so this one would be positive 64. But if we had this, where it's not in parentheses, the 6 is only on the 2, not the negative. So this one would be negative 64. So just make sure you pay attention to the negatives when there's a parentheses. Now, when it's an odd power like 18 and 22, where it doesn't really matter because an odd power is going to be negative regardless. It's not going to change it. But that's probably like the most common mistake with exponents is when there's a negative. So I like to go over that. So this is still evaluate the expression, but it's like a new section of them. 26, we've got 9 times 3 minus 16 divided by 4. So here we've got to remember order of operations. Okay, so there's no parentheses, there's no exponents. So then it's multiplication and division, and we do those things left to right. So I'm going to do 9 times 3 first, which is going to be 27, minus, then 16 divided by 4 is going to be 4. And so then ultimately I get 23. $30. In parentheses, I've got 5 minus 3 squared. And then I've got the square root of 16 minus 2 cubed. So a lot of times the initial reaction is people want to start foiling, but we don't need to do that because, one, that makes our life way more difficult, and two, there's no variables in there. So I'm going to work each parentheses individually, and within each one I'm going to do order of operations. So in this first one, I have a 3 squared here. Okay, so that's going to be 9. So this is 5 minus 9 in here. And you don't necessarily have to show every little step that I'm showing. If you can do it like in, say, like one step, that's fine. I just like to be as thorough as possible when I'm doing examples for you. And then in this other one, the square root of 16 would be 4. And then minus 2 cubed is 8. And so then I've got negative 4 times negative 4, which is positive 16. Any questions about any of those ones so far? Anything? Cool. All right, so these next ones give us some information that we need to be able to solve the problem. So it tells us that P is equal to negative 4, Q is equal to 8, and R is equal to negative 10. And then basically they give us problems with those letters in it, and we'll just be replacing them. So something like 38, we've got P plus R over P plus Q. So all we're doing is replacing the letters with the number and then just simplifying it as much as possible. So I've got negative 4 plus negative 10, so minus 10 over negative 4 plus 8. So on top I've got negative 14. On the bottom I've got positive 4. And then I just want to reduce this as much as I can, so I'm going to take out a 2, which gives me negative 7 over 2. And that will be my final answer for that. For 46, I've got negative, and then parentheses, Q minus 6, close parentheses, squared, minus 2P over 4 minus P. So I would definitely plug in numbers first. Some people are like, oh, that's a special type on the top of factoring. I'm gonna, FOIL it out, blah, blah, blah. Plug in numbers first because it's going to make your life way easier since there are numbers to plug in. So I've got negative parentheses 8 minus 6 squared minus 2 times negative 4 all over 4 minus the negative, so plus 4. So I'm going to have 8 minus 6 is 2 squared is 4, so that's going to be negative 4. And then negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8 over 8. So then that gives me 4 over 8, or 1/2. And so again, if you can go straight to like this step over here, that's fine. You don't have to show out like every little thing. It's up to you. Okay, next one, say to identify the property illustrated in the statement, assume all variables represent real numbers. So these are going to be the like closure, commutative, associative, identity, inverse, distributive, and then like the multiplication property. So basically it's going to show you like a step that gives you something, and we're just going to say what property it is. So this is getting blurry. Let me fix this. I'll try. Okay. So 50, 8 times m plus 4 is equal to 8m plus 32. So which of those properties shows what happened to get from here to here? Yep, distributive property. And that's all you have to do. I mean, obviously that's all you can do on that problem. But if there's stuff that was like would let you go farther, you don't need to do that all at once. Is whatever that one property is. 56. Got -7 plus parentheses x plus 3 is equal to x plus 3 plus parentheses -7. Any idea what property this one is? It might help if you think of this one like this. It's basically two pieces that got switched. Yep. Commutative. Let's see. Simplify each expression. So we're just getting this simplified down as far as possible. So with something like 64, 3/4 times r times -12. So we can think about this kind of as like -12/1. So that when we were looking at this, we're kind of just canceling. So the 4 and the -12 would reduce down so that the -12 becomes a -3. And so then I have 3 times -3 times r. So it's going to be -9r. Mm, 68. Got -1/4 times 20m plus 8y minus 32z. So for this one, I'm basically just distributing the -1/4. So I've got, this is basically just reducing them all by, or like dividing by 4. So that's going to become -5m minus 2y plus 8z. Okay, the last ones that we're going to look at say to decide whether each statement is true or false, If false, correct a statement so it's true. So these are dealing with absolute values. 78. Absolute value of, in parentheses, negative 3 cubed is equal to negative absolute value of 3 cubed. So is that statement true or false? Okay, why?
This negative outside the absolute value is going to turn that into negative.
I think you're trying to say the right thing. But basically this negative should be in here because anything coming out of an absolute value has to be positive. So they should have left the negative inside. We didn't need the parentheses though because the negative's going to go away either way, and it was also an odd power, so it's not going to change anything. 80, I've got the absolute value of negative 14 over the absolute value of 2 is equal to the absolute value of negative 14 over 2. Is this true or false? Yep, it is true because if we have something that's in a whole absolute value, it can be split into two separate ones, like if it's like a division or fraction, and vice versa. So, yep, that would be true. All right, any questions on any of those? Okay, so your problems are 17, 23, 29, 39, 47, 51, 65, and 81. And then if you haven't done the notes for R3, you can go ahead and do those after you're done with the problems. We do get out at 9:11 today. It's a chapel.